When Disney took over Lucasfilm, the most controversial thing they did was take away the EU, or the Legends material as it's now called. That's the expanded universe stuff that didn't encompass the movies and all that stuff. It was more of side stories and expanding on the stories that had already been written by George Lucas. But did Disney actually throw these stories out to forget about them? Or is there another reason? And how did George Lucas feel about these stories at the time that he owned Lucasfilms? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Gerald, and I'm a Star Wars fanatic, and you can be a Star Wars fanatic too. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Stay up to date on all my content that I release. Also, leave a comment, and I'll pick one comment from this video to highlight at the end of the next video, just as I'm about to do at this one. Now, with all that said, let's get on with today's topic. Walt Disney Company. Evil conglomerates own just about every bit of media out there, except a few. But when they purchased Lucasfilm back in 2012, there were a lot of high hopes for good content. Disney had the money to make more Star Wars, and that's what we were all craving. More Star Wars. Didn't look like George Lucas was going to make it, but Disney could. But then, a shocking announcement. Everything from the expanded universe was being thrown away. It was no longer considered canon. Well, was it ever considered canon? Because I didn't assume it was. I never thought it was. So I had to do some digging and find out, is the expanded universe, or now called Legends, canon? So were things like Mara Jade, the Yuuzhan Vong War, Dengar saving Boba Fett from the Sarlacc pit, or any number of the Luke stories, were they canon? Well, let's take a look at it. And in my investigation, I did find some quotes that match up with what we're trying to say here and could probably clarify a little bit. And you're going to be surprised as to what this says. So don't mind, I'm going to be reading from the screen below me. This quote comes from George Lucas himself. After Star Wars was released, it became apparent that my story, however many films it took to tell, was only one of thousands that could be told about the characters who inhabit its galaxy. But these were not stories I was destined to tell. Instead, they would spring from the imagination of other writers, inspired by the glimpse of a galaxy that Star Wars provided. Today, it is an amazing, if unexpected, legacy of Star Wars that so many gifted writers are contributing new stories to the saga. Wow, so it seems George Lucas really enjoyed the stories that were being told by the writers of the expanded universe, or Legends as it's now called. I'm just going to stick with the Legends title. But at no point did George Lucas ever consider the Legends material canon, meaning he wasn't beholden to those stories. If he wanted to create a story that contradicted the continuity of the Legends material, then he was able to do so. He didn't have to consult with them. In fact, he never really met with authors all that much. He had liaisons do it, and they would interpret rules that George Lucas had, such as don't touch Yoda's species, don't name it, don't try to come up with a name of it, don't kill certain characters, but they never did say don't kill Chewbacca. As we know, a moon was dropped on him in the Legends material. So I'm kind of glad that's gone. But what did the authors know of this switch from George Lucas, not considering the Legends stuff canon? Well, when Timothy Zahn was asked about it, who wrote The Heir to the Empire and the Thrawn trilogy, this is what he had to say. They're there to be enjoyed as unofficial legends, but the expanded universe wasn't really ever official regardless of what the fans thought. I did get a chance to meet Timothy Zahn back last year in September at a comic convention in my area, and I asked him about this quote, and he confirmed it. But here's one more quote from another author. Those of us writing the EU were always told all along from the very beginning, have I stressed that strongly enough? Only the movies are canon. Sure, it was disappointing. So what does that mean for the fans of the Legends material? Well, it means they were never really canon. And I know some people are going to argue that because there is a level system that was created for the expanded universe only. But let's take a look at it. There's 6 levels. Level G, Level T, Level C, Level S, Level N, Level D. 6 levels to create a reason for these stories contradicting each other. And mind you, George Lucas never came up with this level system for canon. This was fan created and fan acknowledged, but it was never put into place officially. But George Lucas did take elements from the expanded universe, such as Ayla Secura and Quinlan Voss. He took characters and he would make them canon, but he would not take entire stories and turn them into canon. Movies that George Lucas created and TV shows were not created based on a expanded universe timeline. It was based on his visions for Star Wars. It's a new thing that they're bringing Legends material into the canon timeline, such as Grand Admiral Thrawn. And it's not a bad thing. But when we think back to the moment when Disney canceled all the Legends material, we got angry. I got angry. I loved all the Mandalorian stuff, the stuff with Boba Fett and the stuff with the bounty hunters. I loved that stuff, and I couldn't believe those stories were being wiped clean. But they weren't wiped clean at all. They're still printing those stories. They just renamed it Legends, so you wouldn't get confused as to what the new canon was when it contradicts those old stories. You can consider canon whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Nobody can tell you what to think. All they are saying is these are the official stories that we're putting out. And I'm not trying to be a shill for Disney or anything, because I was really upset when they rebranded it as Legends. But then when I saw they were being reprinted and still sold on Kindle or Amazon or Audible or any of those, I was like, okay, well, maybe we can still enjoy these stories. And we can. We can enjoy the stories as much as we want. But thinking back to it, George Lucas never considered them canon. He could do whatever he wanted. And the difference between now and then is George Lucas back then was the single owner and creator of Star Wars content. Yes, he had help from people like Pablo Hidalgo and Dave Filoni that helped him create stuff and keep a continuity going, but it was ultimately him who decided what would go into canon and his own creations, not the writers of the books, but him. But if you've noticed, anything created from 2012 forward is canon. That means all the novels, all the comics, all the side story TV shows, all the movies, everything is canon. Whether we want it or not, well, that's up to you, really, and I'm personally enjoying most of it. So, yeah, now it's a group of people creating these stories, and they are being considered canon. Timothy Zahn, he's canon now. His new Thrawn books, the 6 of them, they're all amazing. Check them out. Claudia Gray, all canon now, where George Lucas didn't consider any of their stories canon. Maybe you're wondering, and maybe you're not, of how I feel about the old expanded universe being made into Legends or rebranded as Legends, and the new stuff being canon. Well, I'm excited for these authors now who are getting that chance to tell canon stories. I'm excited that we're getting all these new canon stories. I mean, if you've seen the book collection that's came out since Disney's owned it, it's enormous. I can't keep up with it, and I have probably over 50 books, novels, comics. I have hundreds of comics, and they're all considered canon too. But for the expanded universe stuff, the old days, I wasn't really into it all that much. I mean, there were a lot of stories I did like. I loved all the bounty hunter stuff, like I said before, and the Boba Fett stuff, and I loved the Heir to the Empire novels. I thought they were great. They launched Star Wars and brought it back up again and renewed a lot of people's love for the franchise. But then there were other stories that didn't really mix well in the continuity. They crossed over each other, and that's why they created that level system I showed you of 6 different levels of canon, where there was an alternate universe. And no, this is Star Wars. We don't need an alternate universe in Star Wars. Sorry, guys. I know a lot of people want that to get rid of the sequels and whatnot, but I'm just not into the alternate universe thing. Just because the MCU did it doesn't mean that Star Wars needs to do it. But what do I feel about it? I'm excited for it. There are a lot of stories that are going on right now, and there's going to be a lot more after I'm gone for the younger generations to enjoy. And it's all canon. So that means that any TV show or movie that comes out in the meantime can have those elements in it and those stories, and they do. They're starting to bring those into the material. Like I said before, Thrawn is coming to live action. How amazing is that? That never would have happened under George Lucas. We never would have got Thrawn. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and acknowledge the top comment from the last video. And this comes from Daniel Rodriguez Jr. Sorry, I'm reading it off my phone, so forgive me. Very well said, pal. Don't dwell on the negative. Stay positive and keep that dream alive. These people who are being negative haven't even read any of the series that you have mentioned. All right, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I do try to keep my channel as a positive form of Star Wars outlet. That a place that you can come and be happy with it and not be bombarded with so much negative energy. Positive energy. This is Star Wars. Come on. We don't need to be negative about it. We're not 10 years old anymore. We're not in middle school trying to fight the school bully. It's Star Wars and we're all adults. Let's enjoy it that way. And thank you so much for the comment. And everybody, thank you all for the comments. I really appreciate them. You've all been so wonderful. Keep them coming. I do read them, even though I can't respond to every single one of them. I try to get to as many as I can, at least in that first 24-hour period, until I start working on my next video. But I do read them after that as well. So keep the comments coming. And thank you all for watching. This is Gerald from Star Wars Fanatic, signing off and wishing you all great health and happiness. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.